we are going to be talking about the new infantry commander that just came out, Mr. William Wallace, WW. We got the alliteration in the name. Infantry's been a pretty bad spot in Rise of Kingdoms for the last little while. You know, we had that Sargon release, and ever since then, Infantry's been trying to climb back up into relevancy. But I think William really helped solidify Infantry yet again to have a solid 2 marches. I'm pretty sure he will be available in the Wheel of Fortune. So as a refresher, Wheel of Fortune best values at 10 spins is 4.4k gems, and that at 100 spins is 69,200 gems. What I like doing is really breaking down the skills into layman's terms, making it super easy to understand what exactly he does. So skill number 1, called Bass. I'm not gonna name the skills. I'm just gonna say skill number 1, which is the active skill. Deal smite damage to target troop, damage factor 2,400, then deals extra smite damage to up to 3 enemy troops currently attacking the commander's troop, damage factor 300. And of course, smite damage is affected by bonuses to normal damage instead of skill damage, similar to Liu Che and Gorgo, which was the last infantry release. So I kind of summarized it to skill number 1, big smite damage. And then if target is surrounded, more smite damage. I should put big single target smite damage, but 2.4k being pretty solid. All right, skill number 2. When this commander's troop is on the map, infantry units gain 10% health, 30% attack, 20% march speed. So skill number 2, if on map, infantry health, inf attack, inf march speed. Let's go into skill number 3. This commander's troops take 10% less normal damage whenever this commander's troop deals smite damage with damage factor greater than 1,000. So, the active skills for both the primary and the secondary. There's an 80% chance that the damage will increase by 40%, cooldown 10 seconds. So actually, this is a lot of damage increase for a skill, 40% damage increase. And there's a normal damage reduction for your march. So skill number 3, normal damage reduction. If damage factor is greater than 1,000, big damage increase in layman's terms. Skill number 4, Battle of Sterling Bridge. I could read that one. I couldn't read the other ones. When attacking a troop on the map, this commander's troop deals 10% more smite damage and 10% more normal damage. So I simplified it down to if on map, more smite / normal damage. The expertise, whenever this commander's troop uses an active skill or is slowed, it dispels all slow effect from 3 nearby allied and friendly troops, including this troop, and grants them a damage-absorbing mighty shield, damage factor 1,000 for 2 seconds, cooldown 10 seconds. I think this is the only commander that dispels slows. I don't really see slows as too big of an issue in Rise of Kingdoms, but, solid dispel. But more importantly, the 1k shield that comes with the dispelling of slows is actually really solid. Just 1k AoE shield. So expertise, if use active skill or slowed, dispels slow AoE and AoE shield. Recap of what he does. Skill number 1, big single target smite damage. If target surrounded, more smite damage. Skill 2, if on map, inf health, inf attack, and inf march speed. Skill 3, normal damage reduction. And if damage factor is greater than 1,000, big damage increase. Skill 4, if on map, more smite damage, more smite / normal damage, and expertise. If use active skill or slowed, dispel slow AoE and AoE shields. So if we look at what he does in a nutshell, if we want it even more simpler, what does he do? Huge single target nuke, decent inf stats, tons of march speed, less normal damage taken, big damage increase, dispels AoE and AoE shields. So in an open field march, I kind of like to have a complete march where it has certain things, tankiness, some march speed. One thing that I also think he's missing is AoE. Rise of Kingdoms murder balls have been revolving around AoE. Last KVK, my best performing march, I believe, was I actually forgot. I think it was Liang with Herman Prime. Just the amount of AoE damage, super crazy. So in my opinion, he's missing some AoE and some debuffs, potentially some more tankiness. So the real question is, who should you pair with him? You should pair Liu Che. Liu Che, in my opinion, fills in what he's missing, right? What he is missing. AoE and some debuffs. Liu Che has Smite, AoE. He has... I mean, the debuff's not that good for Liu Che, honestly. There's a 10% less damage debuff. Okay, so it's pretty decent. He has some debuffs. Liu Che with WW is going to be a very, very strong pair, especially with the double Smite damage skills. It's going to make him very, very, very strong out in the open field. The trades are going to be crazy. So Liu Che is definitely going to be the pair, in my opinion, for WW. So I'm going to be speculating the best infantry marches. And I actually had a little bit of a debate with this with the homies. We got Bus Driver, and I'm going to shout out Bus Driver and Big Kane. I actually still think if we're talking about pure open field effectiveness in a murder ball, what it would do, hot take, I think Scipio Liu Che as a pair is still going to take the cake in terms of best infantry march. Scipio Prime, very, very, very underrated because he's an older commander, but 30% health reduction AoE is insane. We see he has a lot of march speed, a lot of inf attack, has 20% inf health. I still think if you're going one infantry pair, if you're going based off of open field effectiveness in a murder ball, I think Scipio is more impactful than WW. If you're going purely off trades, if you want to see the best trades, then double Smite damage commander for sure. But I would probably still go Scipio with Liu. Hot take. For 2 though, I think this is where William comes in. I think you separate the Liu Che with the Scipio, and you go the old classic Guan Yu with Scipio. And you also pair the Smite damage commanders together. So you have Liu Che with William Wallace. We have another William in the game, so I'm just going to continue calling him WW. I've seen people say Liu Che primary is really good. I've seen people say WW is really good for the Smite damage talent tree. We still have to see the testings, but I get the case for both. In case you guys don't know the cases, the big argument for Liu Che primary is with the third skill. If we look at the third skill here, there's an 80% chance that the damage will be increased by 40%. You kind of want your primary commander to have the bigger damage. And because Liu Che is a AoE damage commander, and the damage factor is actually pretty similar to WW, you kind of want that 80% chance to proc on the Liu Che active skill. So that active skill has the 40% damage increase rather than the single target skill. That is the case for Liu Che, but William Wallace, of course, if you want to try out the Smite damage tree, all that kind of stuff, like you could perhaps use him primary as well. All right, so let's go into speculations for the 3 marches. And I feel like this is the first time infantry has ever been able to run 3 marches at a decent clip, at a decent rate. I'm not exactly too sure what the pairs are, but I'm going to speculate that it'll go back to the classic Liu Che with Alex. Liu Che Alex, honestly, trading super, super well in every single KVK I used it in. Guan with Scipio, and then Gorgo with William Wallace, WW. I'm sure there's going to be some tests to see if this is actually going to prove true or false, but this is just my speculation. Gorgo being a very, very strong commander. I think William Wallace definitely wants to be paired with a Smite damage commander, just so that he can use that. You know, he has a lot of things that just pertain to Smite damage and normal damage and all that kind of stuff. So I feel like to use those Smite damage increases, like it'd be best to pair him with some Smite damage commander. And I don't think, you know, Gorgo Alex would be a pair. So infantry investments priority, talking about who you'd rather invest in. But I think the top of the top is still the same, where Liu Che, number 1. Liu Che is actually like the rock, the anchor of infantry marches. Like if you want a solid infantry march, you put Liu Che plus anyone, it'll trade decently. That's how good Liu Che is. Second, I still think Scipio Prime is a very, very good march to invest in. He's also very accessible for mid spenders if you buy dailies. You could buy dailies for Scipio Prime and, you know, invest into him, and Scipio Liu Che being that initial infantry march. And then I actually think William Wallace, or WW, slots into third. The reason being is he does a lot of damage. And I think the thing is, it's not really about William Wallace's kit. It's more so having a secondary open field smite damage commander that could pair with Liu Che. Like, William Wallace, I think, is pretty decent. But the fact that Liu Che has been looking for an open field smite damage commander, I mean, we've been using Gorgo. Gorgo is a garrison, but still trades really positively with Liu Che. Imagine William Wallace as that Gorgo replacement. It'd be super solid. Having that extra march speed, which Gorgo Liu Che was lacking. I actually think William Wallace slots into third so that you could pair Liu Che with William Wallace, and then from there you could CPO with whomever, right? You could go CPO Mehmed, CPO Honda. I've seen some people go CPO Ethelfled, CPO YSG. Wouldn't suggest those two marches, but you know, it's doable. And then the fourth commander is Guan Yu. Still super solid. At this point, I probably wouldn't invest gold heads into Guan Yu though. I'd probably invest via dailies or something. So let's get into what does WW change? Well, in my opinion, you have to get decent arch armaments now. If you're going to run Liu Che with WW or WW with Liu Che, you have to have decent arch armaments. For me, I've never opened arch realistically. Like, I opened 10 just to see. But I never had a session where I open arch armaments rather than wedge armaments. For the longest time in Rise of Kingdoms, it's been wedge. Even with Liu Che, you would run wedge if you didn't have a decent set of arch formation. You know, sometimes the wedge stats would be so much compared to your arch stats that even though the 5% skill damage doesn't benefit the the Liu Che with Alex, at least you have more base stats. But now with Liu Che and WW, you have to have decent arch formations, or else you're going to be in a really bad way. The second thing is Alex goes down in priority. I think that Alex found new life with Liu Che Alex. But now that WW is there to pair with Liu Che, he's not like someone I would suggest investing in if you haven't invested in him already. He's still very usable, still very good. But at this point, I think he's more comparable to Guan compared to him being head and shoulders the third best infantry commander in the game. So I guess base thoughts is William Wallace is super good. You could invest into him and be pretty solid in your investment. You could invest into him second. You don't have to go CPO Prime if you want to get better trades and you have decent arch formations. I would personally still go CPO Prime.